For the past 6 weeks, I've been running solely by heart rate, which means zone 2 running for all of my easy runs and my long runs. And in the past 6 weeks, I've seen a huge improvement in my overall performance during my runs and my recovery after each run. But I've also learned what to do and what not to do when it comes to heart rate training. So I wanted to make a quick video for anyone who's interested in or is just starting out with heart rate based training to help you avoid the mistakes I made when I started out. So the first and most important thing we have to do with heart rate based training is identify our heart rate zones. Now, most of us do not have the luxury of going into a lab and spending a ton of money to get our unique heart rate zones based on all of those parameters you find in a lab. But luckily, there are a ton of free online resources, such as heart rate zone calculators, that can help get you in the ballpark of where your heart rate zone should be. Also, if you own a wearable with a heart rate tracker, there's a good chance that they have heart rate zones incorporated into that wearable, and you can utilize those as well to, again, get a ballpark of your heart rate zones. My Garmin says my zone 2 should be a 135 to 147, and I use that zone 2 from my Garmin as guide rails to where my zone 2 should be. It's probably not 100% accurate, but it's close enough. So for me personally, I shoot for anything 144 and below, and then I think my sweet spot is roughly that 137, 138 BPM, just based on how I'm feeling when I'm running at that heart rate. Tip number 2 is to get a chest strap heart rate monitor to ensure you are getting the most accurate heart rate reading possible outside of being in a lab. So unfortunately, wrist-based heart rate trackers are just too inaccurate to be reliable resources when it comes to heart rate based training. So you'll want to get a chest strap monitor to ensure you're getting that best heart rate reading possible. I'm currently wearing the Polar H10. There's a ton of brands that make chest strap heart rate monitors. So just pick whichever is your favorite or whichever you think will be the best for you. But the main takeaway is you just want to ensure that you have the best heart rate tracking possible so that you can make your heart rate training as effective as possible. Tip number 3 is to replace the pace data field with the heart rate data field on your sports watch. I currently am running with the Garmin Forerunner 245, and my current watch setup is total distance, total time, and heart rate. I used to run with the pace data field on my watch, but realized that it was extremely counterintuitive to what I was actually trying to accomplish with heart rate based training, because visibly having that pace always there made it really difficult, because I would see how slow I was running to keep my heart rate under that 147 and have that urge to speed up the run to make my running more effective. So by removing the pace field altogether, it helped me solely focus on my heart rate for each run and keeping it in that zone 2. Tip number 4 is some things that you should avoid with heart rate training. First, you want to avoid running in the hottest part of the day, as your body will need to regulate its temperature to try and bring your core body temp down, which means your heart rate will be elevated, and it'll be really difficult to keep a low heart rate while running at the hottest part of the day. Secondly, you want to try to avoid hills if at all possible. Running hills will obviously elevate your heart rate, and it can be really difficult to bring your heart rate back down once it's gotten up into that threshold level. Third, just don't run dehydrated. Dehydration causes thinning of the blood, which means more blood flow will need to be pumped through your body, and that means elevated heart rate again. So really, you want to avoid things that will elevate your heart rate and make it extremely difficult to stay within zone 2 while you're running. And tip number 5 is that if you cannot run in zone 2 for the full length of your run, then just walk. That's okay. Try and find a run-walk split that works for you to help keep you in zone 2 for the entirety of your run. So if that's running for 4 minutes and walking for 1 minute, or running for 1 minute and walking for 4 minutes, that's okay. The main goal is to keep your heart rate in zone 2 for the entire time that you are running, and eventually your heart will get more effective in your run, and you'll close that gap of how long you need to walk versus how long you can run. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you're able to run in zone 2 for the entire length of your run. I want to say thank you to everyone who's gotten this far in the video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any more questions about zone 2 training, feel free to leave that question in the comments below.